We typically love a good RPG, and today we're going to be talking about Forspoken, which is of course Square Enix's latest action-adventure role-playing game. It's recently had a bunch of information and footage released for the game as it's gearing up for its release in early next year. So we thought it would be a great time to cover what we expect from the game, because right now most of the coverage of the game are opinion pieces, and many of these opinion pieces are people showing disdain for the game due to what some people are calling cringy trailers, rather than talking about what the game will actually be like and how different things within the game will function. So here are 5 things that you need to know about Forspoken, and of course if you do enjoy these videos, definitely show support by clicking like down below, and you can subscribe for all the other videos that we already have planned for you guys coming out over the next few days and weeks. Put in the comments down below what your favourite Square Enix RPG is. I definitely know what mine is, but I don't want to skew the comments. Let's start off with number 1, which is the first thing that we know about the game, which is when you'll actually be able to play it since it has been delayed. You'll be able to play Forspoken on January 24th of 2023, and it will be released for both PC and PlayStation consoles. There isn't any word of an Xbox version at the moment, but recently Square Enix games have been coming to the Xbox platforms about 1 to 2 years after their initial PlayStation reveal. The game is being developed by Luminous Productions, which is the same team within Square Enix that worked on Final Fantasy 15, and they're using their in-house custom engine to develop the game called Luminous Engine. While the Final Fantasy Remake and Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion both used Unreal Engine, Forspoken itself will be using the Luminous Engine instead. Let's now go to number 2, the magic system. In Forspoken, you will have access to a variety of different magical spells, which are split into different categories based on their capabilities. Some of these types are more attack focused, while others may be more support focused. In the latest gameplay trailer, we saw Faye use a bubble support spell to crowd control enemies, but also use a massive area of effect freezing spell. The variety of the magic spells within the game, in our opinion, does look awesome, and the spells can be casted while in motion, which does help add to the dynamic nature of the combat, as well as encouraging you to frequently swap spells out and try out new ones based on the situation at hand. Similar to games like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta, you'll be graded for your combat, making for a fun minigame where you're trying to be as stylish as possible in combat, while also getting the job done and defeating all of the enemies. I definitely have some reservations if the combat will become repetitive, but with the variety of spells and different effects that they can have on you or your enemy, I'm optimistically hopeful that it won't end up being repetitive due to the number of options that the player has when it comes to spell casting. Let's move on to number 3, which is of course Parkour. The game features an extensive parkour system, which is infused with magic called magical parkour. Since the first ever reveal trailer, Square Enix have put a large focus on the mobility that players will have within the game, and this is what drew a lot of people in. The system looks like it functions very similar to Assassin's Creed, while players can easily traverse the environment, and the system itself will contextually adapt to the input and direction that the player wants to go. And obviously with the addition of magic, you're going to be able to cover even more distances and heights, as the magic will help boost your character. Square Enix has said that the parkour system in Forspoken is easy to use, yet incredibly deep. It's not just a simple case of holding down a button and watching Faye go, you will have total control over how she traverses the world. For example, Faye can jump up walls, latch onto parts of the environment to launch or swing herself into the air, pull herself forward mid-air, use her powers to glide, and much more. By chaining different moves together, you can flow through the world with astonishing grace, and it's supremely satisfying. So from Square Enix, it does sound promising, but we'll have to wait and see until we can play it ourselves to truly find out. Next, let's go over to number 4, which is crafting, upgrading, and stats. Boosting your stats and getting more powerful gear is an important part of any and all RPGs. So much like in other games, in towns and structures littered across the open world, you're going to be able to craft and upgrade your gear, which will give you additional powerful effects such as more health, defense, and more. In the open world, you can also visit the Pilgrim's Refuge. These are safe houses to upgrade your gear, to rest to recover your health, and to craft items such as Healing Draft. We'll also be able to increase your stats by exploring and finding points of interest called monuments. Next, let's go to point 5, which is the story. Because of course, the story in Forspoken is basically an isekai, which in simple terms is what the anime fandom uses to describe a plot where a main character is transported from the real world into another world that's typically a fantasy one. You probably already know a few, such as Sword Art Online or Overlord, probably being the most popular ones out there in terms of anime. Here is the official summary of the game. In Forspoken, Faye, a modern young woman from New York City, is magically transported to Athia, a once beautiful and peaceful land that has been beset by a corrupting force known as the Break. No one aside from Faye, strangely enough, is safe from the corruption, which transforms whatever it touches into a twisted and often bloodthirsty facsimile of themselves. They say that they've shown how the Break affects animals and creatures of Athia in the previous trailers, and there's no doubt that Faye has her work cut out for her when it comes to taking them on. In our opinion, from all of the trailers and the gameplay that's out there, we do think that the core gameplay mechanics of the game in those gameplay trailers actually does look quite fun. You have a ton of spells to sling at your enemies, combo together different varieties to buff yourself, to debuff them and deal huge damage on top. There is a lot that you can do within the game that does look flashy and engaging. It definitely goes without saying that in a lot of the trailers they didn't do a very good job at showing the game off very well, with performance issues and other things in the trailers that just made it look a little lackluster. But there's definitely been scenarios before where gameplay trailers didn't show the game off to their best, but the actual game itself was very fun. I do have reservations, like I said before, about if combat will get repetitive after a few hours of playing, and another worry of mine is if enemies will be bullet spongy and not have good visceral reactions to your big damaging spells. But again, we do think that the gameplay looks pretty solid, and we do think that this could be one of those under the radar games, as Square Enix are definitely masters at crafting worlds and characters you care about, so hopefully this is the case that it ends up being a very fun and good game, but it's just not being portrayed very well in the trailers. Of course, this is just our opinion from looking at the game just like you guys have in these trailers and looking at the information Square Enix has put out. We will have to wait until we can fully play the game to completion for ourselves to get a good understanding of what it's really like, and to then form our own opinion about the game, as all we can go off right now is the trailers and the information. So of course, Forspoken has us interested, but we'd love to know what you guys think of it in the comments down below. Then once the game has released, you can come back to this video, check your comment, and see if you were right or not. If you did find this video interesting or helpful, you can also click like down below, which really does help support the video and us. You can also click subscribe because we have a lot of content planned just for you guys coming out over the next few days. And if you did enjoy this video, then the two videos on screen now you're probably going to like too. They're on the screen if you do want to click, you don't have to, it's totally up to you, but for now they're on the screen if you do want to give them a go.